Good.
Did you say hi?
Okay.
All right. Good evening. We're called to order the August 11th, 2021 Poolsville Planning Commissioners meeting. On the agenda this evening, we have announcements. Do we have any public comment lined up already, Wade?
Really, the guys are all, I got a bunch of people in the waiting room right now for only for the presentation on the agenda items.
Right.
That's
Nobody else. Okay.
That's it.
All right. We'll go over minutes from the last meeting, the July 14th meeting. New business, we have Poolsville High School presentation and the Fisher Avenue site plan. We do have the comprehensive plan on old business, just in case somebody wanted to discuss something. I didn't want to keep it off the agenda. And we will adjourn. Wade, do we have any announcements?
We do not. As I said, the town has gone through the interview process for the new town manager. They narrowed it down, and they're going to be making an offer this week to one of the candidates.
Fantastic. Martin, anything that you wanted to pass along?
Just what Wade said.
He stole your thunder. The
Pretty excited.
RFP hasn't gone before the commissioners yet?
On Monday, that will happen.
That will happen. Very good. Thank you very much. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the July 14th meeting? Do we have any comments or edits?
I have a comment. I watched the BZA meeting for Eric Peterson's shed, and I saw they, I guess, didn't make a decision at the time. And I got the impression we have some action items to address. Is that us, the planning commission, or the commissioners about the garage versus shed?
It's going to be both, but Jay and John and I are going to work on the language and come up with something to present to you guys to make a recommendation to the commissioners.
Okay.
So nothing needs to be adjusted in the minutes? Right?
No, I
Is that
just
what
had
you're
a
saying?
question about the BZA
Yeah,
outcome, not about the minutes.
right. So do we have any comments or edits on the minutes?
Fine. If you want, you can fix it that the call to order was 7:13 p.m. and we adjourned at 8:05. So,
All right.
can I make a motion? All right, I make a motion to approve the July 14th, 2021 meeting minutes of the Poolsville Planning Commission with the changes that Lexi proposed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Moving right along to new business, we'll go to Poolsville High School first, Wade.
Okay, so I have a lot of people here and I don't recognize all the names. So let's see if I get everybody in here.
Okay.
Okay, is this everybody for the presentation for the high school? No one's
Yes.
missing? Okay. So you guys want to go ahead and begin your presentation?
Sure. So last time when we came and talked to you guys, we talked about where we're at in the process. We were about 35% complete with design. We've advanced pretty far since then, well beyond 50% into 65 or 75%, depending on who you are. And we're continuing to develop that forward. We have been back and forth with John, related to some comments that he had, and we feel like we've addressed those. And before we start, we just want to make sure that Sean the Mulligan, the architect, is here, and we can just do a quick run through of where we last left off to make sure that folks that may not be familiar with the project could just be brought up to speed with where we are, and then perhaps we could address some of those comments that John brought up and push it forward from there. Does that work?
Perfect.
Okay.
Can everyone see that on my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm going to go relatively quickly through this material. I think most of you were on last time we did this presentation, and some of this is new. Most of it is you've seen before, or something very similar. Poolsville High School obviously is a capital improvement project, with Montgomery County Public Schools. The project is roughly 210,900 square feet in the CIP of addition and renovation scope. And I'll just take you through a quick presentation of some features of the overall site. It's a brief splash slide about our schedule. As Sean said, we're most of the way through design, having our meeting with you today. Target to have documents out to bid late October, targeting January 2022 construction start. This is the existing site plan, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Just to orient everyone, Wooten Avenue bounds the property to the north. West Willard Road is to the west side of the property. The existing north wing of the building, the main building, is here. The Science Annex is in this location. That's an existing two-story building that was built in around 2009. There's a detached greenhouse, barn that are part of the property. Tennis courts, play courts, and then athletic and play and competition fields to the east, which are outside of the scope of our project. Existing parkings to the south of the Science Annex. Main car access to the property is West Willard Road, turn off into this parking area, and the current bus loop is located here. Main front entry to the school on West Willard Road and the bus loop. And most service traffic enters the property from the north off of Wooten Avenue in this location, that gray arrow. Our proposed plan, all of the vehicular traffic from the perimeter of the site remains the same. All the curb cuts remain. The bus loop stays in its same location, slightly reconfigured. The student drop-off, student parking is expanded to the east to accommodate the increased number of students. The building services, or the service entrance, is still off of Wooten Avenue from the north into a service yard next to the kitchen and building services part of the building. The building, as it's designed, is broken into two wings. There's a north wing and a south wing. So a two-story addition off of the 2009 Science Annex, a two-story academic and administrative addition on the west facing West Willard Road, a high ceilinged one-story arts addition that wraps around the auditorium that's in this location. There are two internal courtyards within the building, dining terrace facing two play practice fields and basketball courts or play courts below those to the south. Between the north and south wing is a secure enclosed learning landscape, which is an open outdoor space for students to dine and learn and collaborate. And then, as we said, to the south, the main primary parking area and student drop-off. So the main student entrance is here in this red arrow, and the primary entrance to the school is here off of the bus loop. And there are two planned future additions that are shown here in red dashed. This one is an academic addition that has some classrooms and lab spaces. And in the northern portion, there are some a choral room and some arts rooms that'll be added off of the east side of the auditorium. As I said before, this kind of orange line effectively shows the limit of work on our project. The play fields and athletic fields to the east are not part of the project. We're really focusing our work and effort in and around the school. And here are some kind of brief statistics. There's about 169,000 square feet of existing building on site. We'll demolish about 85,000 square feet of building, renovate 60,000 and add about 150,000 to get you a total of 233,000 square feet complete. The existing greenhouse remains and will be lightly updated to continue serving its function, and same with the barn. The school's designed for a capacity of 1,500 students with a core capacity of 1,800. Those future additions will get them up to 1,800, and the site is about 35.2 acres. This slide just shows pedestrian access. We talked about this last time. There were two major crosswalks, one across West Willard Road at the corner of Wooten and West Willard, and one across Wooten Avenue in this location here. The final plan will maintain and connect to those existing crosswalks. And these orange areas are new pedestrian access, either south from student drop-off to connect to existing sidewalks to the south down West Willard Road, or to the east on Wooten, or to the west to cross West Willard.
And if I can, Sean, this is a good plan to talk about briefly related to one of the comments that was talked about before, that if you go along Wooten Avenue today, the sidewalk kind of dead ends at the existing ride-on stop. And so one of the items that was discussed by the town was just to extend that sidewalk and connect to the crosswalk there at West Willard, and just, for that pedestrian corridor. And so we've added that to the plan since then, and we're prepared to discuss that today in greater detail. But this gives a good rendition of how that pedestrian movement will just interweave with the site.
Let me just interrupt real quick about one of the questions that came up before in a separate conversation with the Planning Commission. If you look to the left of the presentation, the sidewalk to get down the West Willard Road side, if you're not going across to Stony Springs, there is a sidewalk on the school property that goes down where the new sidewalk on the orange is shown, and runs right directly in front of, through the bus loop and down to where the other portion is. So there is an existing sidewalk there.
I just got a message from Brandon Benjamin. He's our project manager with MCPS. If somebody wouldn't mind letting him in, I think he's in the waiting room.
Does he want to come in and tell us about the new gym you guys are going to build?
I will let him answer that question all day.
Thank you.
So that's I think a fair overview of the site plan. I'm happy to kind of come back to that and talk through any specific questions. I'll do a quick run through. We've got a few kind of before and after images of existing conditions and proposed completed design. This is the existing view from the northwest. West Willard Road is here to the right. There's Wooten Avenue there, the bus loop, the 2009 annex, the parking lot to the south, and then the athletic and play fields off to the east. These large volumes, the auditorium, second gym, and main gym remain and will be substantially renovated, as will some of the spaces between those large three big box spaces. And then the older portions of the school along the west side of the school and to the east will be demolished, making room for the completed design, which again briefly is the main entrance off of the bus loop, where the two-story main office, main admin suite, and student services and career counseling suite on the second floor. The academic two-story academic additions that have classrooms and lab spaces and hub classroom spaces and support spaces for students. That forms kind of an L with the 2009 annex at the corner, a two-story glazed connector that connects the south wing to the north wing, the learning landscape between the north and south wings, the auditorium, second gym, main gym, which get renovated in these spaces. This kind of popped up roof is the media center that has glass on both sides opening into these enclosed courtyards, the dining commons and kitchen area, and the dining terrace that opens up to the play fields to the east. Beyond, you can see the existing greenhouse and barn, and some of the new parking structures to the east and north. These are the existing conditions from the south parking lot, so south of the 2009 annex here on the left. And this is the proposed student entry. Again, the major entry for most students who drive or are dropped off, and for most of the staff. This is the existing entry on West Willard Road. The auditorium you can see beyond, the covered bus loop, and the main admin suite here. And this is the proposed completed design. The main admin suite here on the lower level, the secure vestibule and entry, the student counseling and career services suite on the second floor. The arts addition is beyond, behind that bus, wrapping around the auditorium. This slide shows the existing disconnected condition between the science annex and the north wing of the building. And when the project will be completed, this two-story academic addition, as we said, is connected to the new south wing by this two-story connector, which is also a student entry, exit, and kind of mustering point for student activities. This is the east side of the property, so the existing dining and kitchen facilities, kind of the back of house where most of the mechanical services are. Demolishing that older portion of the building makes way for play and practice fields, ball courts, opens up for the dining commons. You can see the courtyards beyond to the media center, two-sided concession stands that opens up into the dining commons and out to the terrace, the dining terraces, the main gym, which is renovated, and the two-story south wing addition beyond. It's a little closer in what we think that dining terrace will look like and how it can be used. A great place for outdoor dining and outdoor community events. A great spot to watch practices and exhibition games. And the real surprise, and one of the places we're most excited about on the project, is this learning landscape, which is this sort of slot urban, kind of an urban slot landscape between the existing north wing and the two-story south wing, which is a great place for students to gather, dine, learn, interact with their teachers, and do their drone practice and drone racing. With this incredible magnet program at Poolesville High School, we are really excited about all the ways that the school and the staff and the community will get to use these incredible learning spaces. And that's our brief overview. I'm happy to take any questions or go back if there's anything in specific that you guys want to talk about.
I guess John provided us with notes in his review, and he addressed some items like tree species and all that kind of. Are you going to address those line by line?
Absolutely. I think, Sean, if you don't mind maybe pulling up the second submission, would you mind sharing that?
Yep, 1 second. You have to stop sharing first, apparently. Oh, there you go. So this is the plan as it currently stands. That we submitted to the town here last month. A few things to highlight in particular, one of which was related to the geothermal well field we had proposed out here in this area. Again, same orientation with West Willard on the west and Wooten on the north. So there was a geothermal well field that was proposed on this side of the site that didn't work out with the wellhead protection zone, and so that has been removed from the project to mitigate that, there are some existing chiller units that are proposed right here, again, just north of the greenhouse that's existing. So we're replacing those with newer chiller units to deal with that issue. One of the other comments in particular was related to phasing and where folks are parking during construction. Before I lose my spot, I'd like to get to one other comment that was not in there, which was a comment from a resident that went to DPS as part of stormwater management. There was a concern from some of the neighbors to the south about drainage that's happening here along West Willard Road and how that's impacting them and how that can be improved. Here underneath, this is going to be very difficult to see, here underneath the parking lot here, we're putting a underground detention facility to detain and slowly release that water. I forget which neighbor it was. It was a neighbor to the south nonetheless, and then release that water out of storm drain, paralleling this. I know there's some other drainage issues that are existing here along West Willard. This will attempt by fixing the inlet that's kind of been high all along and get that drainage off the street and into the pipe and then into the outfall on the west side of West Willard. The other comment in particular we spent some time on was related to phasing, and particularly not how we're going to go about it, but where the kids and the students and the teachers and the visitors are going to go during construction. And so it's always a challenge related to that, and how we don't build this building off campus and then airlift it in like most people think sometimes. So it takes a period of time and a number of years to put this this widget together. And doing so, we're going to take certain areas of the site. So for example, the bus loop during the first phase will come offline, as well as a portion of the existing parking lot to the south. Globally related to parking during that first phase, we're estimating about 50 to 60 parking spaces will come offline. To mitigate that.
Sean, if I could interrupt you, this is Dennis Cross with MCPS. I have already begun talking to the neighbors, most specifically the church across the street. And while those conversations for using some of their parking spaces are in the very early stages, even though they didn't have a great experience the last time that happened, they are certainly amenable to continue that dialogue, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up at least those 40 to 50 spaces on their property. And if not, we'll keep working at solving that problem.
Yeah, so we've looked at ways to potentially add parking that we weren't planning on until later into, early in the process to try and mitigate that. But then it's difficult to add pavement and then just to tear it out. It's just not good work of dollars. So we're trying to find other ways, like Dennis said, working with neighbor properties to mitigate that. But at the same time, making sure that if the students or someone has to cross the street, that it's safe access. And that's why, putting in that sidewalk and what have you along Wooten Parkway are key early parts of that process. So that is generally the phasing that will happen. Most of the work will occur here on the west side of the building and the south side as we populate this new addition off of the 2009 building. And then second behind that will be the auditorium addition, as well as some of the improvements to the front of the building, all keeping within the same staging area and public access along that parking lot to the east side and north side of the building, as well as the main parking lot for the most part will be left intact with a few nibbles around the edges for parking. that will be the process for the first, help me out, Sean, 2 years? 2 years of construction. Once the students move into the addition, oops, sorry, one more slide. Once, oh goodness, another slide. Once the students move into this addition, then construction flips to the other side. So they gain the parking lot back along the south side of the building. The school or the contractor will take the parking on the east and north side of the building. The bus loop will come back online right here off of West Willard Drive. And then but again, the parking will come back for the most part, if not a gain of parking lots during that second phase, such that any off-site agreements that MCPS might have with a church or someone else shouldn't be necessary any further at that time. Because globally for the project, we're gaining about 100 or so parking spaces, to help with that, help with global parking and to get, for the 1,800 student capacity. Are there any questions? I talk pretty fast, so are there any questions related to parking, phasing, pedestrian access, those types of things, particularly during construction? Okay. Those were the main comments that I saw that wanted to make sure that we're on the same page with addressing those three in particular, plus the sidewalk I interrupted Sean on to talk about along Wooten Parkway. Are there any other particular comments or questions or concerns that we can help answer?
I get my question. Hey, for John Strong,
Yep.
the memo you shared with us in our meeting packet, was that
Correct.
shared with VMDO as well?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what I was,
yeah,
that memo I was looking for, what your replies were.
Right. So the forest conservation plan has been corrected, and that corrected plan has been signed and processed. We still need the paperwork to go with the easement on that. The original phasing plan that I had the portable classrooms in a different place. They're now located over the tennis court area. Landscape plan, it is recommended that tree species be alternated due to the recent history of single species being susceptible to disease and infestation. This practice is in hopes of minimizing the tree loss that we've had with other portions of the subdivision. Landscape plan at the corner of West Willard and Wooten Avenue, those trees should be ornamental. Site plans, various details still need to be addressed, such as signage plan details, water sewer plans are still needed. The stormwater discharge crossing West Willard Road into the Stony Springs subdivision. It appears to us that it probably needs an end wall, and also may need to be some modifications to that stream, because at this point it's just there's no end wall. It didn't appear there was an end wall there. You show it there, and one thing that we want to make sure is that when the pipe comes in and discharges, it goes down the channel and not crossing the other channel, so that we're going to get bank erosion to the south. A detailed traffic study is to be submitted this fall. We discussed that earlier in the project. We want to make sure that there's actually traffic flowing when we do get it. And the main point that we look at was traffic coming in Wooten off of Fisher, so that we would know kind of what kind of flows we're looking at, because that is the primary elementary school crossing area. I don't suspect it's going to be much different than it is now, but we don't have that data. And then our final comments, most of the previous comments have been resolved or are awaiting additional details. Like I said, the water, sewer, stormwater, that kind of thing. We did look at their stormwater comps, and the stormwater comps that they supplied seem to be adequate. And also that we anticipate there actually might be a reduction in the offsite flow from what is existing due to the storage capacities that are being instituted. And then our final recommendation was most of it's all technical in nature. It is a recommendation that the submitted site plan be approved preliminary plan, just as a preliminary plan would. This would leave some technical issues to be ironed out, and that would show up in the final set of plans.
John, can I ask about the traffic study? Because I know we talked about it, and I know we talked about this with MCPS early on. You know, that we were in a bit of a catch-22. We had to submit a traffic study and conduct it when traffic was you know, at COVID levels, and the traffic engineer used best available data, and the state agreed to multipliers to confirm that traffic was that this project would not negatively impact traffic in that area. And I think that was their, primary conclusion. And I know you and Mike talked about some of their recommendations, which included the continuation of the sidewalk from the bus stop to across West Willard. And I think there was also a recommendation about potentially changing some striping at the intersection of 270 and Wooten Avenue. Sorry. What in addition to the study that they completed would the town need to move forward?
So the study, what was agreed to, at least verbally agreed to, was that when traffic counts actually came back, they would actually get the traffic counts to what we're seeing, because we were looking at. We wanted to make sure that we actually had the traffic counts, because some of the assumptions were, when I talked to the traffic engineers originally, was that the traffic was coming from the south on West Willard Road, and it actually doesn't come that way. That's not the direction it comes down. It comes out usually down Wooten and then down West Willard Road. And so we talked about that. And he asked for the 2 points that we were interested in looking at. And those were the 2 points, so that we would gather information, what's coming up Wooten Avenue and what was coming down West Willard. Neither of those, we don't have numbers. We're guessing at this point. We don't have numbers to work with. This isn't anything that would hold you up from anything, but it is something that we need to clarify to make sure that what we're assuming the traffic loads are going to be the traffic loads. And then we can extrapolate out what what's going to be going to the student parking area, and also to the staff, what I call the staff parking area.
If you want some anecdotal traffic evidence as a parent, I noticed it's like in thirds. A third of the parents coming from down county will go up Westerly and then turn right onto Willard and drop those students off from that side at the student drop-off area. Some parents will go all the way Fisher to Anytime Fitness in Bassett's, drop their students off at the stop sign at Wooten, and then they'll just continue back down Wooten to exit town to go back to where they are. So the bus stop is a big drop-off point. Not actually the bus stop, but the corner of Elgin and Wooten is a popular drop-off spot. And those are the two tricky areas. That crosswalk at the bus stop is going to be crucial at Elgin and Wooten.
Well, I guess my only comment, John, is that additional traffic study was a surprise to me. I thought that we had an understanding about what the state and the county needed.
When I talked to Mike about it, that's who I talked to about it.
Mhm.
You know, that was who the conversation happened with.
Okay, I'm happy to follow back with Mike and you and make sure that we're on the same page.
Okay.
And I believe, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I know Chris sent me kind of a draft response and had asked a few questions. I believe that all of the other comments in John's list have been addressed, and I think you guys should be receiving at least some updated information soon, if not, if you haven't already.
Right.
I think that as you said, John, the complete stormwater drawings, all the sanitary drawings, all of those things, of course, will be coming in a later submission as the design continues to be developed.
I understand.
Okay.
So John and Wade, is our goal here tonight to recommend the preliminary site plan? And then
Actually, tonight, and staff does recommend approval of the preliminary plan, and that's what, yes, that's what you'll be doing tonight.
but then they'll come back with an actual site plan.
So there's
later.
actually, no, not a site plan. There's gonna be a final plan that comes through that has a lot more detailed information on it. And a lot of times that's more of an administrative thing that does not go to the planning commission itself. It's water lines, sewer lines, adjustments, things like that.
So yeah, Kevin, just to let you know, what'll happen is if there's no major changes to the general layout of a facility, then it becomes an administrative process, just like any other subdivision plan. Usually you don't get to see it.
So you'll look at to make sure the plan has different species of trees and addresses the items that you brought up. Is
Correct.
that right? Okay.
Correct.
So it won't come back to us to make sure that they dotted the I's and crossed the T's. You'll
No.
essentially do that.
Right.
Yeah, staff will do that. Yeah.
Okay.
But this is our last chance to get them to build a traffic circle and a new gym, right?
That's right.
Want to make sure you know that, Kev.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so glad you're all laughing.
Yeah.
I didn't laugh. I just smiled.
Yeah. No, we're banging on the appropriate drums. We know it's not your drum to bang. But
We're trying to make the school as great as we can.
yeah, we appreciate it.
And we're very excited.
Yeah. And so are we. The town's excited.
Yeah,
Good.
I am. Yep. All right. Well, is anybody else have any questions for these gentlemen or for John about the project? If not, we do have a recommendation in place from staff. Anyone want to comment on the recommendation?
It doesn't seem like anything has changed drastically since the previous recommendations, other than things that needed to change. So I don't see a reason that I wouldn't vote to approve it. Okay, so then I make a motion. Hold on one second. If I make a motion, do I need to say contingent on town recommendations being addressed? Or is that implied?
It will be implied.
Okay.
Yeah, all the testimony is on record. It'll be in the minutes also.
Okay, so then I make a motion to approve the preliminary site plan for the Poolsville High School project.
Second. The motion.
All in favor? All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Gary, thank you, gentlemen, very much for your time and for your efforts.
Thank you very much.
It's
Good
gonna be a
seeing
great
everybody.
project, I can tell.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
And I guess we will be moving on to the Fisher Avenue site plan.
Let me let a couple people in here. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hey, Don, how you doing? Just enjoyed
Hey,
watching
Tom.
the new high school get built there. That's exciting.
Yeah.
It is.
Ooh.
Okay, you want to go ahead and talk about your project?
Yeah, I don't know. I know you have a staff report from John. I don't know, John, did you want to, jump in there first? Do you want me to go ahead and talk about it first?
It's your project. I don't know if you can pull it up on the screen or not.
Is Jeff Scenaro in there in the waiting room?
There was somebody else that said owner.
There's
Yeah,
the
there's
project.
Jeff. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for the record, I'm Tom Kettler with Vice President Kettler Four Lines Homes here tonight with the preliminary plan submission for one of my clients, Krish Bala, who has owned this property for several years now. You all may recall we were in last summer or fall, I can't remember exact month, for the initial sketch plan, which generally was the same as this plan, showing a proposed 3 lots for his property. Just for the benefit of those, it's down there. I don't know if everybody knows where it is, but it's kind of at that bend as you go down Fisher Avenue. I'm sure everybody's pretty familiar with it. It's just a big open field right now. We have moved forward since last summer. We've moved forward with the design plans for the single lot, which Mr. Bala was going to pursue, just building his first home on that, and possibly have built these 2 lots later, which is why we did the sketch plan last summer. When we went through the process of budgeting the community, of looking at what's going to cost to get, because we've got to bring, kind of complicated, we got to bring some sewer and water off site, provide some other residents to the north, to the direction am I going?
West.
To the west, I'm sorry. We're bringing sewer down Fisher Avenue to get to the property because there's no sewer and water right there. We're bringing water across the street, so it's a little bit complex. We've worked that out. We've worked with the adjacent property owners. We've created easements that have been since recorded. But when I talked to our client and told him how much it would cost to do all this, he realized that the finances of it made it sense for probably to go ahead and try to move forward with all 3 lots initially, or right off the bat, as opposed to what he was thinking about a year or so ago. So that's what's before you now. These it's a half-acre zone. I know you've got John's staff report in front of you there. The idea still is for our client to build his personal home back on lot 1, and then lots 2 and 3 in the back, which is a larger lot, and lots 2 and 3 would be built, at some point, probably not too far after that. We're just showing prototypical houses that we build on it. That's certainly not going to be necessarily the final footprint, but it just shows, the general configuration of what the house may look like. All 3 we have 3 driveways out on Fisher Avenue. They're all showing side-loaded garages. We've got some forest conservation to the north. I'm sorry, not forest conservation, some reforestation, just that shaded area, which I think we showed originally at the sketch plan process. So we're looking tonight we understand there's some issues we've got to work through with State Highway. So we're looking for conditional approval tonight. I know it's not quite as exciting as the high school, but we're looking for conditional approval on this plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do show right of way dedication along the front of Fisher Avenue, which we would expect State Highway to request. It should be their standard dedication across the front. We do not anticipate any curb. I mean, we'll see what State Highway tell us. They're going to be a controlling entity on this, but we're not expecting, based on what we see up and down Fisher Avenue there, that there would be any requirement for curb and gutter and or sidewalk. The way the town's set up right now, the sidewalk is all running on the south side of the street and is interconnected all the way down there. There's no sidewalk all the way up from Wooten, at the intersection of Fisher and Wooten, all the way down to Spates Hill on the north side, on this side. So it wouldn't seem to make sense to put a section of sidewalk in here connecting to nowhere, starting with nowhere and then going nowhere. So I think that's, based on the town's master plan for 2011, which I reviewed. I think that's sort of in conformance with that also. So we have done some initial stormwater management analysis, and it looks like all three properties would be serviced by dry wells, which again picks up the water flow from the roofs and puts them into underground, basically stone vaults that serve as a way to collect the water and let the water percolate down through the soil as opposed to just running across the ground. That's one of the preferred methods that the county is using. Of course, that'll be through standard Montgomery County approvals. So there is one, let's see, I'm trying to think of what I'm forgetting about here. There is one question that John and I have been going back and forth on, not question, but there is a concern that, and we want to be sure we've got safe access coming out on Fisher Avenue. Right now, geometrically, the three accesses out on Fisher Avenue compute out when we did the survey are on it. Although lot number 3, and John can speak to that, has expressed some concern that it's kind of close to that bend. And he's a little worried that lot 3's site distance will be a little bit limited. And one thing we've talked about, and I know it's been back and forth with different planning commissions over the years, is we could alternatively propose to connect lot 3 to the driveway going back to lot 1. So effectively you'd have 2 driveways instead of 3 driveways. Mr. Ballo is fine with that. He actually probably would prefer that. But the town kind of has an unofficial policy, as I understand right now, that they kind of discourage joint use driveways. But in this particular application, I think it might have some merit. Although again, State Highway is really going to be the driving. State Highway is going to tell us what we can do and we can't do along Fisher Avenue. So until we get an SHA, we won't really know. But I sort of throw that out, see if any of you all have any thoughts on that, because we're certainly open to, a solution that works for everybody.
Yeah, whatever geometrics work. I mean, State Highway doesn't want it that close, and it needs to be connected. I think that's certainly a use case for the town to go against their informal policy. So I'm happy to address that when the feedback comes back.
Right.
I will say though, on this property, well, not on the property, but in the road right in front of this property is the only that I'm aware of, the only stormwater grate in the road surface, just off the white line on the south side there. But it's on obviously the west side of the property, but at the south end of that. You know what I'm talking about, John?
I'm sorry, this is Jeff Scenero, the civil engineer. It sits about right here, I think, on this side of the property down here.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a couple more, Brian, that are down further near the Hirschberger Lane and that are out in the roadway also. But you're right. Typically they are not, but there's a couple that are.
Yeah, this is the first one that you find on this stretch.
Yeah, and one thing about that one, as you know, Brian, over the years has been a troublesome one. That's had failures before, but they seem to have corrected that problem by placing a concrete vault there now.
Okay. Yeah, and so there's a kind of a two-part question. One, I know we've had some issues with it in the past, and two, it is actually a pretty dangerous. I don't think we've had any bad cycling accidents there.
We
but the
have.
grades- We
Yeah.
have? Makes
Dr.
sense.
Mevison wiped out there.
The
Right.
grades are parallel to the route of traffic. So anyway, I've seen that a couple times. Just if there's a chance to address that.
We can bring it to state highway attention again.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, obviously it's off our property, so there's really not much that we can do about it. But yeah, I understand the point.
I thought it was closer to where the driveway was going to come out. But
No. The problem that I was bringing up to the team is that as you go down towards the adjoining property where it comes together, right in that area, there's some pretty heavy overgrowth. And if you go to about where the driveway is proposed and look to the south, you can't see past that tree line and see the trees. Geometrically, it works. They may be able to slide that driveway or combine that. Whatever the state highway deems necessary is going to have to be what serves that lot.
Yes, it's a deceleration to pull in there, making a right-hand turn into the driveway. It's a dangerous part because people will come around the corner.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, I'm sort of open to, because part of it, when we go to state highway, I'd prefer to go with a, preferred method. And, I just looking at this plan, it sort of screams to me that house the lot 3 wants to come off of that lot 1 driveway. And I don't, obviously as planning commission, you all can, recommend that, and we can certainly pursue that. But because I just, I certainly don't want an unsafe condition, but, and again, the problem with site distances, we all know, is they're designed for, whatever the speed limit is, and people come down that road, and that's an issue everywhere. People come down the road at 50 miles an hour. There's not much you can do about it.
I would add to that, just for informational purposes, for you to think about, when the surveyor went out and did this site distance, they actually did the furthest distance they could see in the lane by the regulations. You set back 6 feet from the road, 3 feet high, that kind of thing, and they reached out 283 feet, and I think the requirement is only 200 feet. And so when John Strong went out there, from what I'm guessing, and John, I'm speaking for you, so correct me if I'm wrong. When you looked out through here, and John took a nice picture of it, I think when the original analysis was done, it probably was not midsummer. And so that overgrowth happened through here. And so theoretically, wintertime, it probably works. In the summertime, it probably has an issue. And then also, I would say with that is that since that tree is on, and some of it's on somebody else's property, the control of it, other than the town having to go to those people and trying to cut it back, might be an issue. But with that, I would say, if we can tie into this driveway, I don't think state highway would have any problem with it, because the less accesses that they have, the better. Although they're not going to deny one based off of someone subdividing a piece of property in these lots, as long as it's not truly unsafe. So I don't think the state highway would have a problem coming back and doing it off a dual driveway off of or two accesses off of one driveway. And it might be a better solution to this, even though I think that we can make this work and create pulling this back a little bit further so that we can avoid some of the overgrowth that kind of happens with this tree in the summertime.
Yeah, and just Tom Keller again. I mean, the one thing for the benefit of those who aren't that familiar with these common use driveways, we would create a easement basically from Fisher, assuming that lot 3 went over onto lot 1's driveway, an easement between lot 3 and lot 1 that would be shared from Fisher Avenue back to basically where the driveway loaded into lot 3. And that easement would be, perpetual. It would say that those two parties agreed to maintain, upkeep and do whatever they need to do to keep that driveway together. Once it gets beyond that point, the owner Mr. Bala, would be responsible for everything beyond that. But that's the sort of standard language we have, and we've done it. I've been doing this for 42 years. We've done it in a lot of places, and and the other thing, if you think about it, if from an environmental standpoint, it's really better because you're knocking out more pavement, and anytime you have less pavement, that's a good thing. And you can see that would reduce, all that driveway from lot 3 all the way back to the front of the house, and you would just side load off of that garage, and then a little bit of asphalt. It's right there already. It's literally, probably 10, 15 feet off of it now. So anyway, it's just, food for thought.
John, I didn't see a recommendation from you in your letter, in your memo, about combining the driveways. What do you think about it?
Combining the driveways is not a problem. The reason that the town has been avoiding that, it came out of a case several years ago where the town got dragged into a neighbor problem. So they set a policy not to combine driveways when possible.
I'd like to jump on that too. I think when you first look at this plan, it does scream out like that shouldn't be there. It should be connected to the other driveway. And it's certainly a case that the policy, and at one point there was an issue with special exceptions on a shared driveway, but
Right.
also it was sometimes developers just trying to create more lots and having shared driveways.
Yep.
Rather than this is a real reason. That's why the code says you can have 2 on one driveway. And this is a perfect example.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think this makes perfect sense to do that, because that's a dangerous turn.
Yeah.
When you're driving westbound towards the center of Poolsville.
Correct.
I worry about those folks coming out of lot 3 and all that. Yeah, because that turn there's no sight line. So I would be highly in favor of pipe stem for this parcel. I have some other comments. John and the rest of the group, I was just going through, line by line. I had a question or thing on number 6. My comment was, I'm assuming we would do fee in lieu, like how we did with the Gary Hart's property, because obviously I don't think we'll build a tot lot
Right.
that people will use here.
Correct.
So I'm assuming we would do fee in lieu. On number 9 about the street lights.
Yeah.
So I noticed that on that street, everything's on the pole. It looks like utility
Correct.
street lights. We'll just add another one.
Cobra heads. So my recommendations regarding streetlights, sidewalks, and curb and gutter, those all come from the code saying what has to be within a subdivision. And same thing with the street trees. And of course, within this plan, they're not there. And they may not be applicable for the project. The state highway, I believe, is the one who designated the layout for the street lights. And that's where the Cobra heads come from. And not the traditional, what we normally see for the town lights, and also the subdivision lights that are within the town.
So, and then a question on the sidewalks. So I know we don't have sidewalks on that side of town, but I don't know, is there any pipe dream in the works on the Parks Board to connect Spates Hill to Wooten with the street sidewalk on that side of the street? Because I wouldn't want to make them just make a sidewalk to nowhere, right? Like,
But you're exactly right, Kevin. I was thinking the same thing. right now, there's a right-of-way issues with the rest of the properties that go all the way down to Wooten Avenue. And then there's a lot of them going the other way also that people have, sometimes the roadway is just a prescriptive right-of-way. There's not even a right-of-way or an easement or anything for it to place in there. That's not to say, though, that sometime in the future, the town might go through and buy them up, like they had to buy a right-of-way of Mr. Hartz's property, put that sidewalk in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good point. It would be a sidewalk to nowhere right now.
Yeah,
But, that's a good point.
but do we want it to be there to maybe encourage future sidewalk? People might say, why is there a sidewalk to nowhere? You can say, well,
Yeah.
the town should finish building that out.
A
Because
lot
it would
of-
be nice to have that. Because I do worry about the people crossing from Spates Hill over those, it's almost 4 lanes of traffic
Yeah.
over to Bud Road
Mhm.
sidewalk. It'd be
Yeah, a
nice if
lot
people
of-
could go on
yeah.
Spates Hill and stay on the westbound side of Fisher. But I don't know.
There's a number of jurisdictions that do require it, whether it's in, they have the same thing, it's a sidewalk to nowhere, but eventually nowhere will be somewhere. And it, probably will happen. It may not happen for 20, 30 years, but
And then I had, on your last comment, John,
Hmm.
no covenants or restrictions. Is that, you're talking about like a homeowners association or something?
But in the code, there's still a line in there about covenants and restrictions. And originally, the reason those covenants were put in there were for things that happened in the past regarding race and things of religion, those type of things. That's why they were originally in there, that the developer would present those covenants or restrictions to the planning commission. This particular lot has no covenants or restrictions. It's just an acknowledgement that they didn't submit anything, and that there will not be any covenants nor restrictions on the property.
Wade, I have another, I'm going to test your memory and John's memory too. The property, the developer on the corner of Westerly and Fisher, I think they were going to build 6 lots.
the Quiddo property across the street.
Yeah, and you know how like, I think that's County Road, Westerly from Hughes to Fisher.
Did we take that section over, John?
We took that over. It's
Okay,
ours.
so that's
now.
ours now. Westerly's ours now.
And so did we ask them to build a sidewalk on their side of the street?
No, you talking about on Westerly?
Yeah, across from, you know how there's 4 homes in Westerly.
Right. The plan never went forward. That plan is dead.
But I
Oh.
do believe there was a sidewalk on the conceptual plan.
That's
what I
correct.
thought. I thought we asked them
Yeah.
to include that sidewalk.
Yes, I think
We
so.
did. We did.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing for reference, Kevin, back to the sidewalk question. I mean, I'm looking at the 2011 master plan, and it shows, although it's graphically, it's a little error in there, but it shows, existing, it's map 11, which is pedestrian bicycle trail system. It shows sidewalk. Again, it's inaccurately shown on that, but it shows sidewalk basically on one side of the street, and it crosses over. There's a crosswalk at Wooten, as we talk about, and there's a crosswalk down there at Spates Hill, that drops people over to the other side. But yeah, I understand the point about the sidewalk, because it would be, I mean, if you drive up and down that, it's going to be somewhat problematic to do sidewalk. Not to say you couldn't do it in 30 years, but there are drainage issues along there. There's kind of a lot of stuff going on. So, I mean, I drove it again today to kind of picture that if there would ever be sidewalk along there. Not to say that there couldn't be someday. So
It would be tight. I did the same
tight.
thing. I drove up and down a couple times this week. Every time I drove by, I tried to imagine a sidewalk, and you're right.
If you think
It'd be
about
tight.
the sidewalk's going to want to be back. I'm not sure. I'd have to see what state highway would want, but I don't know if state highway would want it out there in their right of way, or whether they want to push it off their right of way and push it back even further. So that would be, you're just getting into more stuff. But again, it's obviously your all's call, but I hate to put something in that doesn't, it just is out there to nowhere. But I understand Wade's point also that there, it's certainly part of the code. So that's, you can argue both sides of that, obviously. I guess one other point too, while I'm thinking about it, to John's question number 8, he talks about water and sewer allocation need to be dedicated for 2 lots. I am probably in the next, I don't know, month or 2 may just go back before and it's not real. I know it's not the planning commission's purview in terms of the allocation itself. May go back to the commissioners and just see where they stand on that. I know they're kind of right in the middle of looking at allocation right now, and they've got those larger parcels in town that they're trying to contend with. But, obviously my client's hoping that, these little small infill pieces like this are not going to be tied up in all that forever. But we sort of need to figure that out, because there's no sense finishing design on this and trying to go build it if we, have to wait.
There's different buckets.
Yeah, right.
Different buckets of allocation. So.
Yep.
Right. So whether that bucket has any in it or not, but we'll go that. Yeah. And obviously it's the commissioner's, call on that. But I just wanted to let you know that's how we're going to address item number 8. We understand, we can't go anywhere without, he's got 1 tap by right now, but the other 2 he would need the commissioners to agree to. And I believe this property originally had 6 on, maybe 20 years ago when it was owned by somebody previously. And obviously 3 is what it's going to end up being.
Yeah, for our new board members, I remember the previous owners coming to us when we were going through the allocation process and asking for a continuation of their 6 taps.
Right.
And I don't think we approved.
Correct.
Yeah, what was this? I can't remember what it was. It was Longshore.
Longshore originally.
Longshore, yeah. See, you got better memory than I, Mr. Ghost. Boy, my lighting, I got to improve lighting where I am. I look like I'm in the witness protection program. Sorry about that. I'm in my model home, but the lighting isn't very good, obviously, here where I am.
Any other comments or concerns from our commissioners?
So Wade, you said different taps or different buckets for the taps. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. If you recall, and I've not looked at it for a while, but we had a priority that would be the center of the commercial area and there was a large number, I forget exactly what the percentage of it was. And then there was a smaller outside of the TIZ, which was a smaller, like a 10%. And then the commissioners had 10% set aside for themselves. So exactly where we are as far as this current year, I don't have an exact number. I'm saying he's probably going to be fine, but John, back me up on this.
That's correct. We're in the process of doing a couple of things. Martin, one of them is what you asked for. We're looking at the water issue. But sewage issue looked like we're okay there. To take two taps, which is right. 750 gallons. So we're not 650, sorry, 325 each. Yeah. So 650 gallons, we can handle that.
So and I think we talked at our last meeting how this lot could fit 6.
Well,
they're only asking 3.
It's technically, if you divided it all up in half acres, you could have 6 half acres, but that's not realistic when you put in, BRLs and reforestation or afforestation and driveways and right of ways and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a common misconception, Kevin. And everybody who has a 10-acre property is half acres, and they say, "Oh, I got 20 lots." It doesn't work that way. It never works that way.
But I remember we discussed that. I think
if by example, the Brightwell Crossing is 179 acres or something, and it's third and half acre zoning, and it ended up being 170 some lots. So it's basically 1 lot per acre. So that you can do the math on that.
Yeah.
So Wade, back to the water thing. When do we? This is sort of not specifically about this property, but when do we expect Kathy's report?
have a call into her right now, so I'm waiting to hear back from her. She was working on it. She was asking more questions, so she's in a process, but I don't have exact timeline. She
Great.
said by the end of summer when she
Great.
originally, her timeline herself.
Thank you very much.
So what's our action here? Our action is to potentially, or to decide whether we want to approve a conditional approval.
Yeah, conditional is all you can do at this point. I mean, state highways are really going to weigh in, and they're going to say what the right of ways are going to be, where the driveways are going to be. So there could be some changes to this. We really don't know. So preliminary allows him, or just a conditional allows him to move forward and come back with the other answers, and then we'll have all the answers by water and sewer by then too, hopefully.
This is different than the high school. We're going to get another look at this as it goes along.
Yeah.
Lexi, you've been quiet tonight. Is there something you're holding back?
No, I think I agree for the most part, except I disagree with Kevin and the need for sidewalks. I understand that there's concern about having to cross over, but honestly, the difference of taking Fisher to Wooten and taking Spates Hill to Wooten and coming down to that same intersection is nominal, 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was just throwing it out there for conversation. I don't have an opinion either way, but I just thought we should discuss it.
Kevin, I do like the notion of keeping that option open though. Like, if at some point in the future we're going to want, sidewalks on both sides of most streets in town or whatever, that the option would be open or the option would be there.
You can always request an easement to be put in place to make sure that one could be put in the future.
That's correct.
I was thinking.
I like that option better.
Yeah, because then we don't have to, it's one less thing we got to worry about if we're going to try to get all those, the pieces of property we need to put it in.
Yeah.
Tom, could you put a 10-foot easement in there, abutting the right away?
Jeff, I have the problem. I'm trying to figure out what they're going to want it probably behind State Highway, aren't they? John, do you think?
That's my guess. Yes.
Right. They're not going to want it in there.
It'll make whenever they decide to build a sidewalk, it'll make life so much easier, assuming that the state highway still owns the property.
Right. So in other words, the 10-foot easement would be just inside of, just to the right of that dedication, for the benefit of the board members here, to the right of the dedication line.
Well, Tom, let me ask a question, and I'm not sure how it works in Poolsville. I know that in Montgomery County proper, there was an agreement made with all the utility companies that the PUE could not be encumbered by a sidewalk or something that they would have to rip up and replace. So I don't know if in Poolsville you'd have the same issue, because this right here, this basically the width of the cursor is the dedication, and then over here is a 10-foot PUE. That being the case, if you were to put an easement to the right of that and you could not put your utilities within it, the sidewalk would be another 20 feet outside of that, all the way back here. And then you'd have to jut it back to wherever to come back down and meet something. So
I'm unaware of, we always have in the subdivisions, newer subdivisions, we put a 10-foot easement behind the curb or behind the sidewalk, or always behind the sidewalk. But we don't have an agreement with the utility companies not to construct over top of their lines that I'm aware of.
Okay.
You're right. That's correct.
And then that would be a no-brainer in my mind. And you could just, if that were the case, you could put it within that PUE.
Just included in the POE document. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, we've done public, was it PI, public improvement, using PIE, public improvement. Yeah. So you're viewing it, John, as like a combined easement.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. mean, just for the benefit of the record, back to the driveway issue, if you do vote on this tonight, maybe one of the conditions is to, go from 3 to 2 entrances off of Fisher. I mean, if we can, we just clarify that so that way we know which direction we're going for driveways.
Tom,
Personally, I would like to see them combined. I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but I just don't think that makes sense to have that third driveway there right close to the curve, like everyone's been talking about.
so Amanda, are you saying like 3 to 1 or 2 to 1?
I'm sorry, 2 to 1. I'd like lot 3 to be combined onto lot 1's driveway.
Okay.
I think it'd be good to spell out in any sort of decision tonight to spell out those 2 items. Or we can leave it up to John. John's got our wishes. He knows what we want, and this is going to be.
Well, can I get just a quick polling from the planning commission?
Yeah, that's all we need, exactly.
Can just tell me what you want, and I'll make sure it happens. If you are all comfortable with combining the driveway with lot 3 and 1 into one driveway, I'll just make sure it happens.
Any objections to that?
No, I like that.
Just a dumb question to throw it out there. Does it make sense to have all 3 into 1, or is that not feasible?
No, that becomes much more complicated.
Okay,
It does,
yeah.
for sure.
Right. It would only make sense, right, if you're moving it to lot 3 or 2's driveway position, right, to give it even more, and that just doesn't seem reasonable.
Right.
So, and then any objections to the combined easement?
Nope.
All right, John, I think you've got
direction. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So if we don't have anything else to discuss or any other concerns, now would be the time to potentially approve a conditional site plan.
Preliminary plan, actually.
Preliminary plan, sorry.
Sure. We'll take the site plan, Brian, but that's
It's conditional me getting the name right.
Conditional approval of the preliminary site plan.
Make a motion that we make a conditional approval of the preliminary plan for parcel 229.
I'll second it.
All in favor? All right. I couldn't see everybody. Did you capture that, Wade?
I think I saw everybody.
Hi.
Thanks, guys. All right. Thank you, Mr. Keller. Appreciate your time.
okay. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
See you,
Yeah,
Tom.
And our last agenda item is the comprehensive plan. And again, that was just a placeholder in case anybody had some new thoughts since the meeting 2 weeks ago.
I don't know if y'all get the same email I get from the Maryland planning, but the census data is going to be released tomorrow.
Saw that.
So that should help us with some planning.
So we can meet again on a work session on the 25th, and we're going to have Sustainable Poolsville and Poolsville Green here. I'm also working with Economic Development. I think that they're going to be here also. Do you want to talk about September work sessions? We don't have anything kind of slated out there for that one.
And unless, as far as I'm concerned, unless you see heavy agenda items and the need to extend to a separate meeting, I think I'm fine in September, keeping pace with just a monthly meeting schedule.
Okay, perfect. And there might be an extra thing that comes up just because of the consultant and what they want to do. So, okay, perfect.
And I'm certainly not opposed to having another work session. I just don't want to force it just to, if the need arises, I'd be happy to bring that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to echo what Brian said. Unless there's a heavy agenda. If there's a heavy agenda, I'd rather have a separate work session.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Because by the end of the session, if there's stuff on the agenda, I'm kind of tired and my brain's not working. And I'd rather be fresh to work on the master plan.
Gotcha.
Hey Wade, is there any chance that we can get a copy of what you are sending out to the groups when you invite them? I know that Katie Longbreak with WOMCO came and there was some, she needed clarification. It wasn't quite obvious or maybe, I'm just hoping that maybe if I could read it or if we could all read it, maybe we could give some input that helps either narrow down or even broaden what people are thinking about when they come and maybe clarify what we're looking for.
Sure. Yeah. It was basically just a form letter. And then depending on which group they were classified in, I sent that section of the master plan to them.
Okay.
So I mean, that's how simple it was, but I'd be happy to share it with you.
I would love to see it. I would appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, and are we awaiting response from any of the other civic groups we've reached out to?
I've written back to MCA twice now with no response. And Martin, I don't know if you have a connection there or not.
I can send Caroline a message and see.
Yeah, because I talked with Sarah Rogers also of Heritage Montgomery, and she said she forwarded it on to her also. So that was 3 hits that went to Caroline Taylor. So according to her, and Sarah, I was waiting to hear something back from her, and I'm gonna have to reach out to her again also.
So what's the deadline? I'll let Caroline know right now. What's the deadline?
Really, there is no deadline. It's the next meeting by August 25th is our next work session, and then we'll be at regular meetings in September. But I think it's going to be open for once the consultant comes in, it's probably going to open up again.
Right. And just to reiterate, I know we talked about this I think it was with WOMCO, is that we don't have a due date for the master plan. All that's required is that we revisit it. We don't even have to rewrite it. We just have to revisit it. So what we're doing is keeping us within the guidelines of the state. So we don't feel pressure that it has to be completed by the end of the year or by mid-spring or whatever. Let it take its own course. Let's be comfortable with what we do. And again, we don't have to cram in, 2 meetings a month. I know Martin's already got 3 meetings a month on his agenda, so we don't need to add another one to that. But if there's a need and we have if it arises, I'm willing to. I think everybody here feels the same way. So.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I agree.
Martin, if you want a couple more meetings a month, we can add a couple more. No?
Pass.
All right, well, I think that does it for our agenda items. Unless there's anything else that we haven't addressed yet, guys.
Hey, Brian, just to let you know that there is a NRI FSD for your signature in town hall. Okay.
I meant to come in Tuesday and I forgot. I can probably do that tomorrow. Yep.
No problem.
Thank you.
I just have a procedural question. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask. The 2 houses that are being built right across from the parcel we were just talking about?
The one house.
Isn't there 2 houses? Well,
one's been complete for a while, yeah.
Those didn't come to us. I'm assuming because they were just 1 lots.
They were already subdivided lots.
Like previously, like years ago, I guess.
Like 1989 or something like that.
Oh, so and they met all. I was just
They had
wondering.
water
Curious,
taps on them already and everything. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was it. I make a motion. We adjourn.
Okay.
What time is it, Lexi?
8:26.
Okay.
But I see Martin second that.
Yep.
Yep. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank
Thanks,
you, guys.
guys.
See ya.
Yeah, everyone.